If you're such an expert, then diagnose it. The doctor sneered at the janitor's symptoms, then was stunned by the diagnosis. San Miguel Hospital had always been a busy place. Crowded hallways, hurried doctors, distressed patients, alarms going off from time to time. And among all that, moving quietly, was Jordan, the janitor. Jordan was a simple man, invisible to most, but he never failed to smile at those who looked him in the eye. In recent months, however, something had been bothering Jordan. It all started with a strange sensation in his hands, a slight numbness that felt more like fatigue. He thought it was just age. Then came body aches, inexplicable fatigue, and a low-grade fever that kept appearing at night. Small spots started showing up on his arms, and his eyes were red in the morning. Jordan tried to schedule a public clinic appointment, but the waiting list was long. He asked for help at the triage of the very hospital where he worked, but they told him he should go through the public health system. A nurse even said, "It's probably just a virus. Drink lots of water and get some rest." But Jordan knew it wasn't something ordinary. He could feel it. During a break, while cleaning the hallways of Wing C, he saw Dr. Ricardo coming out of surgery. He was the most respected doctor at the hospital. Young, award-winning, always with an air of superiority. A medical genius, with an ego to match his resume. Humbly, Jordan seized the opportunity. "Doctor, excuse me, do you have a minute?" Ricardo barely looked at him. "Speak quickly. I'm late for another surgery." "It's just that I've been feeling some strange things. For weeks now. Body pain, spots, inflamed eyes." "Aye." Ricardo sighed, impatient. "Are you a doctor now?" Jordan fell silent, unsure how to respond. "Look, my friend, if every hospital staff member came to me about a headache, should I become a general practitioner?" He mocked, laughing. Two residents behind him laughed along. "But, doctor, I really feel something's wrong. I know my body." Ricardo turned, now with a cynical smile. "Oh, you know your body? Then tell me, if you're such an expert, what's your diagnosis?" The silence that followed seemed to freeze the hallway. Jordan simply lowered his eyes, ashamed. He didn't answer. He felt small, ridiculed. He just shook his head and went back to pushing the cleaning cart. Ricardo turned his back, still smirking, and walked away as if nothing had happened. But in that moment, something changed inside Jordan. A silent rage began to grow, not out of wounded pride, but out of fear. Fear that something serious was happening and no one would listen. Fear of dying in silence. He had no degree, no white coat, no name tag that said doctor, but he had intuition, attention, and above all, instinct. That night, when the hospital finally slowed down, Jordan stayed in the locker room longer than usual. He took out his notebook, the one he used to jot down work notes, and wrote, "Joint pain. Spots are spreading. Blurry vision in the morning. Night sweats. Ignored again today." He closed the notebook carefully, took a deep breath, and made a decision. If no one will listen to me, then I'll find out what I have myself. Little did he know that this choice would not only change the course of his own life, but also that of the doctor who humiliated him. In the following days, Jordan began to see the hospital through different eyes. The hallways he used to clean on autopilot became sources of information. Every conversation between doctors, every notice on the nursing board, every label on medication boxes, all carefully noted in his old blue-covered notebook. He started his shift early, before the 7 a.m. round, and only left late at night. He used his breaks to visit the small library in the hospital's basement, a rarely used space that housed old medical books, nursing manuals, and dusty scientific journals. There, he immersed himself in a technical world that seemed impenetrable at first. But Jordan was patient. He wrote down terms, searched definitions on his old phone, cross-referenced symptoms with articles, and read patient accounts. The pages of his notebook began to fill. He drew basic graphs showing progression of his pain, listed foods that worsened his symptoms, compared the spots on his arms with printed photos he found in books. His home desk turned into a small improvised lab, full of sticky notes and scribbles. The muscle pain increased. There were days when getting out of bed was nearly unbearable, but he kept going. In the ICU wing, He met Donna Nair, a nurse technician close to retirement. She noticed the exhaustion on his face and asked, "Everything okay, Jordan?" He hesitated, but answered, "You know when you feel something's wrong, but no one believes you." She nodded with the tired eyes of someone who'd seen that too often. "Happens more than it should. And what do you think it is?" Jordan showed her the notebook. Donna Nair flipped through it, surprised. "This is more organized than a lot of patient charts I've seen." She suggested he look into autoimmune diseases, something she had recently mentioned to a resident. Jordan had never heard that term before, but from that moment on, he followed a new path: lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, Behçet's disease, vasculitis. Each strange name came with a frightening list of symptoms, and to Jordan's shock, many matched what he had been experiencing. The pain, the low fever, the blurry vision, the spots. In the rheumatology wing, he befriended Davi, a young patient receiving regular treatment. During a chat outside, Davi said something that caught Jordan's attention. "Mine started like that too, with a mild pain no one took seriously. I only got diagnosed when I almost lost vision in one eye." Jordan froze for a moment. "Lost? What do you mean?" "Inflammation. My immune system attacks my own body." Crazy, right? That night, Jordan went home with his head spinning. He spent hours cross-checking information. The more he read, the more convinced he became that he was facing an autoimmune condition. But he also knew it wouldn't help to go to any doctor saying, "I think it's lupus." They would laugh at him. Again. So he decided to write a kind of report with everything he had gathered, the symptoms, the timeline, photos of spots, changes in his eyes, temperature logs. Everything was documented with near clinical precision. Yes, he was a janitor. But now, he held something in his hands that few patients could offer: a meticulous self-analysis, crafted with dedication and desperation. The next day, he decided to try again. He waited for Dr. Ricardo's shift to end. He stood by until the doctor emerged from the break room, pulling off his gloves and yawning. Jordan approached him, this time with a firmer tone. "Dr. Ricardo, I know you don't have much time, but please take a look at this." He held out the notebook with the torn-out pages. Ricardo sighed, annoyed. "You again? Just give me 2 minutes. If you think it's nonsense, I'll leave and won't say another word." The doctor looked at the notebook with boredom. He took out of obligation, flipped through it quickly. Something about the organization caught his eye. There were dates, images, hand-drawn diagrams. The disdain in his eyes slightly faded, though superiority still lingered. "Where did you see this?" "The hospital library. And some reports online. I spoke with some patients. I just want to know if it could be something autoimmune." Ricardo handed the notebook back, saying nothing for a moment. "This isn't a diagnosis. This is amateur guesswork. You have no training. You read half a dozen articles and think you can find what we study for years to understand." Jordan swallowed hard. "I just want to be heard." There was an uncomfortable silence. A resident who had been listening from a distance quietly approached and said, "Doctor, it wouldn't hurt to order a basic immune panel, just to rule it out." Ricardo looked at her impatiently, then at Jordan. "Fine, let's do it then, just to prove you have nothing, and that this is all in your head." He signed the lab request with an impatient hand. "Go to the lab. Results will be ready tomorrow. And when it's negative, I hope you stop with this nonsense." Jordan took the paper with trembling hands. He couldn't tell if it was rage, relief, or fear, but as he walked away, he felt, for the first time, that someone had listened, even if just to mock him again. That night, he went home more exhausted than ever. But as he lay down, he didn't feel the usual pain. For the first time, there was a spark of hope burning in his chest. Little did he know that the test would reveal something that would leave the whole hospital in shock and make Dr. Ricardo swallow every word of scorn. Jordan arrived early at the hospital lab the next day, test request in hand, a tired face, and a mixture of hope and dread in his chest. The phlebotomist, a young woman named Luana, already recognized him. "You? Here for a test?" Jordan nodded. She tried to hide her surprise. It was rare to see admin or janitorial staff taking tests there, especially ordered directly by Dr. Ricardo. "It'll sting a bit, okay?" she said as she tied the tourniquet around his arm. "The arm pain is the least of it," he replied with a sad smile. That morning, along with blood, unseen tears were drawn. Jordan left the lab and went back to work as if nothing had happened. But anxiety weighed heavier than any hospital trash bag. Throughout the day, he moved through the corridors like a ghost, cleaning with mechanical motions, his mind spinning. What if I'm wrong? What if it really is all in my head? What if it's something worse? Cancer? MS? What if the tests show nothing again, and I'm still just a dramatic janitor? At the end of his shift, he sat on a bench near the hospital snack bar, where he could see the ambulances arrive. He watched the movement while scribbling in his notebook. He couldn't stop writing. It was his way of breathing. 2 days later, the results were ready. Since he didn't have access to the digital system, he had to wait for someone from the lab to help. Luana, who had seen him before, whispered, "The results are in the system. Some markers are off, way off, but I can't say more. The doctor has to see them." Jordan simply thanked her and waited. Late in the afternoon, fate did its part. Dr. Ricardo, exhausted after a tense shift, passed through the ICU hallway and came face to face with Jordan, sweeping near the reception. Their eyes met for a second. The doctor seemed to remember the test request. He paused briefly, turned, and said indifferently, "Wait there. Let's check that result." Jordan followed him to one of the medical stations. Ricardo accessed a digital chart using the registration number on the request. Silence. The doctor frowned at the screen. "This must be wrong." "Wrong how?" "Your ANA levels are extremely high, and this C-reactive protein through the roof, elevated ESR, and the anti-nuclear antibodies positive." Jordan didn't exactly understand what it all meant, but he recognized one thing clearly: the surprised expression on the doctor's face. Ricardo clicked on other tabs. Opened charts, compared reference ranges. This isn't normal. It could indicate something autoimmune. He looked up and stared at Jordan as if seeing him for the first time. "You said you had eye inflammation?" Jordan nodded. "And joint pain?" Another nod. "Have you had mouth ulcers that take a long time to heal?" Jordan thought for a moment. "Yes, often inside the cheeks." The doctor leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "This is more serious than it seemed." "I knew it," Jordan whispered, voice choked. Ricardo said nothing. For the first time, he seemed to be truly listening. No sarcasm, no rush, no defenses. "We'll need to go deeper. Order specific immune tests. Could be lupus, could be Behçet's disease, or something similar." Jordan nodded, swallowing hard. He wanted to feel vindicated, but what he felt was fear. Real fear now. It was no longer just a hunch. It was fact. "We need to refer you to a rheumatologist. This can't be ignored anymore." Jordan took a deep breath. Finally, someone had said out loud, "Doctor, thank you." Ricardo didn't respond right away. He shifted awkwardly in his chair. His arrogance slowly began to melt under the weight of truth. "I may have underestimated the situation," he said, briefly looking at the floor. Jordan just smiled without irony. "Sometimes, doctor, people just need to be truly heard." Ricardo said nothing more. He issued the new orders, printed a referral, and handed it to him. "The rheumatology clinic is on the 4th floor. Take this and check with Dr. Carla's assistant. She might fit you in." Jordan thanked him. There was no sarcasm now, only recognition, disguised as formality. In the elevator, going up to the 4th floor, clutching the papers, Jordan felt something he hadn't in weeks, real hope. But mixed with it came unease. Because if his suspicion was right, he was sick, very sick. And now that the healthcare system was finally paying attention, one hard question: was it too late? Dr. Carla's office was bathed in a soft amber light. There were plants in one corner, a bookshelf full of books, and a sense of calm that contrasted with the coldness of the rest of the hospital. Jordan arrived early, yet still waited for over an hour. Other patients were there too, all visibly debilitated. with canes, bandages, sunken eyes. He observed each of them carefully, tried to see himself among them, tried to accept. When he was finally called in, he walked in with the papers in hand, the blue notebook under his arm, and his heart pounding like never before. Dr. Carla was a woman with a firm expression and a direct gaze, but there was something gentle in the way she listened. She didn't interrupt. She didn't look away. She let Jordan speak for nearly 10 minutes, describing symptoms, flare-ups, patterns, until he pulled out the notebook and showed her his records. She flipped through it slowly, studying each page with surprise. "You did all this on your own?" Jordan nodded. "I knew something was wrong. I just didn't know how to explain it. And no one wanted to listen." The doctor turned back to her computer and pulled up the test results. "Jordan, you were right to insist. Your test results strongly suggest a systemic autoimmune inflammatory disease. Everything points to Behçet's." He didn't recognize the name. The doctor continued. "It's a rare condition. The immune system attacks the body's own blood vessels, causing inflammation in various parts of the body: skin, eyes, mouth, joints, nervous system." Jordan listened as if he were hearing a sentence being passed. She spoke gently, but the words were heavy. "Is there treatment?" "Yes, but it's chronic. No definitive cure. With medication and monitoring, it's possible to control it and live a nearly normal life, but it demands vigilance, discipline, and you're going to have to change a lot." Silence. "You've already been in a flare-up for quite some time. The question now is how your body will respond." Jordan took a deep breath. It felt like a weight lifted from his chest, only for another to take its place. "Thank you, doctor." She smiled. "You're the one who got here. I didn't discover you. You're the one who didn't give up." The following week, Jordan began treatment with immunosuppressants and strong anti-inflammatories. The side effects were tough: nausea, dizziness, days in bed. But he endured everything with dignity. He knew it was part of the journey. The changes in the hospital began quietly. Ricardo, the doctor who had once mocked him, started treating him with restrained respect. He avoided eye contact at first, but one day in the hallway he pulled him aside. "Jordan, I wanted to say that I was wrong. I was arrogant. You had more clinical insight than many of the interns around here. I'm sorry." Jordan looked at him for a moment. He didn't smile, didn't retort. "Thank you for acknowledging that. I just hope that next time someone comes to you, you'll listen." Ricardo nodded, and Jordan went on his way. The story of the janitor who diagnosed himself began to circulate through the halls, first as gossip, then as curiosity, and finally as an example. Nurses came to talk to him. Medical students approached, asking to see the notebook. Even the education department coordinator asked for permission to use his case in a clinical empathy class. Jordan accepted with a discreet smile. In the rheumatology ward, he began helping older patients with paperwork, explaining difficult terms. He discovered that his experience with the disease made him a bridge between doctors and patients. He was heard, respected, sought out. One morning, Dona Nair, the nursing technician who had encouraged him back at the beginning, found him at the hospital snack bar. "So, Dr. Jordan, got your white coat yet?" He laughed, for the first time in a long while, a light laugh, like someone carrying less pain. "Not yet, but maybe someday." She winked, as if she knew something even he didn't. Jordan didn't defeat the disease, but he defeated negligence, disregard, arrogance. He proved that behind a uniform stained with disinfectant, there was someone with real pain, with reason, with courage. And if at first they had doubted even his pain, now he stood as a symbol of something greater: the strength of those who do not stay silent, even when no one wants to listen.